Mama's got a squeeze box she wears on her chest. Daddy comes home, he doesn't get no rest, 'cause she's playing all night and the music's alright. Mama's got a squeeze box, Daddy doesn't sleep at night. That's The Who. And Squeezebox, or Mama's Got a Squeezebox. The actual title of the song is Squeezebox. It's a really simple song, but it's got a couple of things that make it kind of interesting and fun to play. It's a basic 12-bar pattern. The chords are G, C, and D. There's your 1, 4, and 5. And if you don't know what 1, 4, 5 means, it's basically the chords that are built off the root notes of the major scale. So the first, the fourth, and the fifth notes in the major scale, in the key of G, that is, so the G major scale. First note, fourth note, and fifth note are G, C, and D, and you build chords off those. There'll be more about that sort of information in other videos, and plenty of other stuff online. So if you are wanting to find out more about it, search my channel, search everyone's channel, search everywhere on YouTube. There's some fantastic videos out there that teach you a lot about music theory. But we don't need to go into that here. We need to learn those 3 chords. We can do them all as open chords. Now the interesting thing that they do with this G chord is they play it with these. I've watched Pete Townsend, videos of Pete Townsend playing this, and he definitely does it this way. So he plays the G chord with these 3 fingers. So instead of using fingers 1, 2, 3, like most of us do, or even 1, 2, 3, 4, you use fingers 2, 3, and 4. Play your open G like that, and then to get that kind of rock and roll sound, the typical way to do it is to play that, to kind of extend that note up and back from that. But with this one, we're moving over, and with these 2 fingers, you're lifting these first 2 fingers off and you're putting them over where they would be in an A minor 7 chord. So basically your first finger is on the B string first fret. Your second finger moves from where it is here on the 2nd fret A string in your G chord and moves across to the 2nd fret D string. When it goes back to the G chord, so it goes back and forth between those 2 positions. So when it goes back to the G chord, first finger lifts off. Back to that extension, the first finger goes down on the B string and the second finger goes down on the D string. And what we do is kind of let this 3rd finger muffle the A string, or mute the A string. So that's what you hear. And you go back and forth between that on an up and down strum. So it sounds like this, and I'll do it very slowly. And you hear on that up strum is when I'm moving my fingers back to the G chord. It doesn't matter if you don't get your 2nd finger back to that G chord spot in time, because the A string is still muffled. So you could spend your whole time muffling the A string and it would still sound alright, but when you get back to that G chord, you want to really hear that A string if you can, but it doesn't matter if you don't. Mama's got a squeeze box she wears on her chest. Now that can feel a bit weird at the start, but if you spend a few minutes just doing that riff, it becomes quite smooth and easy to do. So the first 4 bars of your verse is that. Then you move to a D, and to get that kind of rock and roll sound, what we do is we add that 3rd fret E string, making it a D sus4, and then back off again. I haven't put the D sus4 on your chart because it's a simple song, it's a simple chart. You don't need to do that, but you hear it a little bit. The mix is a little bit indistinct, but you can definitely hear them doing it sometimes. So it may not be on every single beat like the G chord is, but put it in where you want to put it in. And she's playing all night. Then we go down to the C, and the music's alright. Now when you do the C, the way you add that extension is by leaning this first finger over onto the E string first fret. If that's too weird or too tricky for you, another way you can do it to jump that second finger across from the D string to the G string. Sounds a little bit different, but that would also work. What I think they do is that, but they definitely don't do that every single time. So it's, and the music's alright, and she's playing all night, or the other way around, she's playing all night, and the music's alright. Mama's got a squeeze box, back to the D, Daddy never sleeps at night. And then you're back into the G. And whenever you hit that G, you're doing that back and forth between the G and the extension. Now, that's pretty much the whole song. The format, and actually let me just backtrack a little bit and tell you the little introduction that they do. So the introduction is a G chord with those two fingers on the top. And then they go to this, which is kind of, I guess it's a D at 11, but that sounds more complicated than it needs to be. What you're doing is a G, and then you're moving across to play the top three strings, the top four strings, sorry, D down to E, and you're doing a D chord with your finger lifted off the G string. That's a D at 11. Does that through 4 bars, so 2 beats on each, and then then you change to that traditional G but with those other fingers, and then you're into that, and that's pretty much it. As it is on your chart, so shall it be. 4 bars of G, 2 bars of D, 2 bars of C, bar of D, bar of C, 2 bars of G. That makes up your 12-bar pattern. Now, on some of the verses on your chart, the first 3 times you go through that progression, you add 2 bars of G at the end. And that just kind of gives a breathing space before you head back into the beginning of that repeat section into another verse, or the bit that goes in and out and in and out and in and out and in and out. And she's playing all night, and the music's alright. Mama's got a squeeze box, Daddy doesn't sleep at night. After you go through that first section 3 times, then you're into the bridge, which is where it just kind of pulls back. Exactly the same chords, except without the 2 bars of G at the end of it. Right, so that is the 12-bar pattern. The first section is a 14-bar pattern with those extra 2 bars of G. The second section is the same 12-bar pattern without the 2 bars of G at the end. You're pulling back in this section, squeeze me, come on and squeeze me, and you're not going back and forth between those things, obviously, because it's just pretty much one strum on each bar. Squeeze me like you do, I'm so in love with you. Mama, and then it starts to build up at the end. Mama's got a squeeze box, Daddy doesn't get that, Daddy doesn't sleep at night. After that 12-bar pattern, it hits that repeat sign, and then back to the start of that section where you're doing the solo, basically, which is a banjo solo, which is an interesting enough thing. Do what you want there. At the end of that solo section, again, 12 bars, reach through to the end of that section, you go through the repeat sign this time, and then you're into another of those 12-bar sections where it goes in and out and in and out and in and out and in and out. And she's playing all night, and the music's alright. Mama's got a squeeze box, Daddy doesn't sleep at night. Now at the end, they just do this. That's the entire song. Like I said, very easy once you get into that rocking back and forth on that G chord and up and down strums. Have some fun with it. It's a great song, a fun song to play. Thank you for watching. We'll see you here again next time.